So welcome to Teachers Teaching Teachers. It is the last day of January. And we are talking about a couple of things tonight. We are beginning with Black Lives Matter at school. Chris Rogers, I was just with Chris Rogers for some time this weekend at EdgeCon in Philadelphia. And he actually last week sent me a note saying there's amazing stuff happening around curriculum, around this week of action happening, and you should connect with it. So Chris is here to help us make those connections and think about it with us a little bit. And Harry Brake is with us, and a friend of his from California. We will introduce her in a second. Beatrice Motamani. Did I say it wrong?
You call me Beatrice, but it's Beatrice Motamati.
Motamati.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm executive director of Global Student Square. It's an international student journalism network.
So thank you. And you have an idea that's not about Black Lives Matter necessarily, but I kind of guessed from looking around your stuff that you'd be happy to hear about all this and connect as well. Is that fair?
Yeah, I'm very happy to learn about this group. I think it's awesome. Harry introduced me to it, and I just couldn't believe the wealth of the comments that I was seeing and the size of the community. So just happy to be here. Share anything that we can. Harry and I do have an idea for a project, and whenever you're ready, we can tell people about it.
Great. So Chris, we'll throw it to you. Tell us what's happening. Assume we know nothing. I know that must be hard for you to do in the middle of it, but pull back a little bit. Go to Seattle in 2016. How about there? We'll start there. Yeah, is that good?
Oh, am I? You can hear me, right?
I can.
Okay.
Can't see you much, but yeah. Okay.
Okay. I hope I'm in the frame.
You are.
All right. So it doesn't begin in 2016.
Okay. When's it begin?
On that. It begins in 2017.
Okay.
And teachers in Seattle took an opportunity to organize around and there's an old Teachers Teaching Teachers episode which has this whole conversation in it. I think it's like episode 240 or something. But I go on. I say that so
I'll find it. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Seattle were able to come together and they brought the sort of like caught on to the movement of Black Lives Matter and got over like hundreds of teachers within the Seattle schools to wear a shirt on the same day. And that day became sort of like the Black Lives Matter Day of Action, where they sort of like make the connections between the Black Lives Matter movement and educational justice. So in Philly, we sort of caught wind of this, and we decided to sort of like expand upon this day that happened in October.
Who's we? In that sentence?
Yeah. I'm getting there. And
okay.
The whole week in January, like late January going into February. And that we is the Caucus of Working Educators, which is a caucus of the Philadelphia Federation of Teachers, and Teacher Action Group Philadelphia, which is part of like the Education for Liberation Network. So through all that, we began to organize and bring different resources together and work with community members to get events going. So it was like a day where in the morning, you would see teachers teaching lessons around racial justice in the classroom under the guise of like the 13 principles that the Black Lives Matter movement has put forth. I think it's important to note that this is not like a Black Lives Matter network officially sanctioned event. It's more like educators coming together to honor Black Lives Matter and really like use a lot of their resources and a lot of their language, but we are not like sanctioned by the Black Lives Matter network.
Do they even sanction anything?
Yeah, I mean, they have a number of actions and organizing and demands that that the network has sort of like put forth, and there's a number of satellite chapters throughout this country. Philadelphia has one this year. Actually, in this year, we've like earned the endorsement of the Black Lives Matter Philly chapter, but that is still like saying that the energy and the organizing behind this does not come from the Black Lives Matter network, which is like led, by Patrice Cullors, Opal Tometi, and Alicia Garza. But this was something that teachers came together to really like catch on to that movement and begin to share around. Yeah. Where was I?
Beatrice, did you want to say something? You texted something there. Or is that? Feel free to interrupt, by the way, at any point. But
sorry, unmuting myself. I didn't want to step on your narrative.
Chris.
Chris, it's really really interesting. But I really was thinking about there is such a tradition in the Sufi movement, which is my cultural background, but also in your background, like the African American educators movement of, just seizing the day and just taking these subjects and just jumping on them in a really big way. And that sounds like what you were able to do. I'm kind of curious what you got.
So that you can keep interrupting. I don't think we introduced you properly. Do you want to say what you do and so forth?
Sure. So I'm executive director.
Sorry about the camera not being here, by the way. Go ahead.
I'm so sorry. And for a techie person, I'm feeling very embarrassed. I'm executive director of Global Student Square. It's an international student journalism network. But backing up, I spent 20 years as a working journalist, newspaper, magazines, wire service, and then 10 years in the classroom as a high school teacher. And so I taught in high poverty environments and at private schools, about equal shares of my career in both places. And I've done a lot of research into the work of Martin Luther King, the civil rights movement. And so what you're doing now is just very, very much resonating with me. I'm also very much into student press rights and free speech rights and the Supreme Court case law that protects students when they do things like and teachers too, when they do things like wear t-shirts in schools that administrators may not love. So I'm just, I want to shut up and let you talk, but I'm kind of interested to know if there was any pushback from administrators or, your superintendent or anybody about what you were doing.
Yes, I mean, definitely. I think, so last year, as we began, there's already sort of, so Caucus Working Educators is like a caucus or like a subsection of the Philadelphia Federation of Teachers. And there was already this divide there of this energy is coming from a caucus, a number of people who are working with community partners around it, but it wasn't like a full union approved event. So there was a whole big thing within the schools just around the right to do this work, right? And it's like our teachers stepping on toes to be able to do this around their union. We felt like we were really inviting conversation into the union around how the union needs to, step up around racial justice, step up around the relationship between teachers of a community and the community itself. So that was one way that I think dissonance showed up. Another way, as we sort of got started, there was a number of, I guess, like you say, opinion pieces that hit the local newspaper.
When you Google Black Lives Matter at school, those still come up. So
yeah.
A
lot of them are like really messy. It's just like they took Fox News's 7 o'clock A block and just tried to word it into a opinion piece. Doesn't feel like they did any like original work. But
Chris, did you use social media at all? Did you try to maybe do this as an Instagram?
Well, yeah, there was a number of, a lot of energy came through that as well, of like how are we connecting teachers and getting. We even had some happy hours that brought some teachers together. So I mean, yeah.
I know I'm jumping over a lot here, but where are we this year? 5th through the 11th, if I have that right, something like that. Starting on the 5th, at least. It's a week of action. How did it go from a day to a week? And you started this weekend. You started telling me every time I saw you, there were 3 or 4 more cities involved. So how has this grown and why?
Yeah, I mean, I think it. Well, we started. So Seattle started a day in October 2017. We did our original week in the beginning. Well, hold on. Somebody's got their dates wrong. It must have been 2016 because then we did ours in 2017. So yes, our first week was in 2017. And this year, over the summer there was a conference, a very popular, and I would say one of the best teacher conferences there is, Free Minds, Free People, where we were able to talk about the work of putting together and launching and holding this Black Lives Matter Week. And there was New York, teachers from New York were there, teachers from Boston, a couple of teachers from the West Coast, a couple of people from Chicago. So the connections were sort of like made there with the idea that we would go national this year and really pull in a lot of different teachers unions and a lot of community groups and just spaces all across the country. So that process began in I would say September or October, where we began to sort of build this relationship. And I mean, at this moment, it's still
DC's been collecting a lot of materials too, right?
Yeah. So Teaching for Change hopped in from DC in the Washington Educators Association. They've been doing a lot of great stuff. So you have Teaching for Change in DC. You got DC. You have some teachers in Baltimore. You have the one in Baltimore is a caucus just like ours of the Baltimore Teachers Association. You have Howard County, Maryland. You have let's jump up to New York, New York City. You got some teachers that are doing some interesting things in Buffalo. We got the New Jersey Educators Association endorsed it. There's a growing number of school districts across New Jersey who are beginning to endorse. What's the East Coast? Let's go over. We have Chicago, Milwaukee, Chicago, Milwaukee. I mean, yeah, okay. Chicago, Milwaukee at this point. LA, Portland, another suburban district outside Portland. Yeah, and the list is growing.
That's what's going to be interesting.
Seattle.
It's easy to mention these big places, but there are probably small schools and 2 or 3 teachers in a school doing things too.
Right, because as a teacher, everyone can access it, and what we are looking for, so it's so many people that are being touched by it that we hasn't even come across our radar yet. I would say one thing that's pretty cool that wasn't exactly part of our movement. I don't know it was in connection with our movement, but in Mount Pelier, Vermont, it seems like there were students there or a committee there that organized with their schools to launch a Black Lives Matter flag outside the school for Black History Month. And it was they won the vote. And I guess Fox News picked it up, or Breitbart News, or some alt-right platform picked it up. And they've been I think one of the things is really reaching out to them and supporting them. There's been so many threats and just the trolling and all this other stuff that's been going on up in Vermont around that decision. And I mean, it really exposes what we're trying to. We're recognizing that education is seen as this quote unquote neutral space, and so we recognize that racism is right. Is even from how the curriculum's created to who's teaching in our schools to how our schools are disciplined. We recognize that racial bias, racism is still like prevalent in education. So by going against that, it's really opening up some like very, I don't say like horrendous behavior folks right now.
So Chris, can we I think it makes sense. Although Beatrice, I'm saying your first name correctly, am I not?
Of course, yeah.
You corrected me. Are you there?
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
I'm here.
Yeah. So your platform is just to get, since geography is in the mix right now, your platform is global. Can you kind of explain what that's about, and how can we get your platform? How can we go global with this too?
Oh, you can go global with this easily. Let me show you the square, but I'm also going to show you maybe some of the stories that we've done that I think would really reflect some of these issues. Just the short version here for GSS is that we'll work on schools that we'll work with schools that want to work with us, and we try to use what students naturally want to do. I mean, this is really project-based learning, and we're really trying to work with schools and students that are passionate about different issues. And so really almost any issue that is meaningful to students is something that we will take a swing at. I started Global Student Square 2 years ago when I became a Knight Fellow at Stanford. And I will tell you that the thing that really got me thinking about an international student journalism network was being in Paris and seeing how they were covering Trayvon Martin. They just really felt that that was a hate crime. It was a human rights issue. They really wanted to have that in Le Monde and in French newspapers. It was just really fascinating to see that happen. So senior editors, Felicity Uriarte Jones, she is now at San Jose State, but she's our opinions editor. She spent all day doing editing a story about a Muslim youth teen camp, so we're sort of interfaith. But when Felicity was at a high school senior last year, she did just this beautiful opinion piece the night that that Donald Trump was elected, and this is the piece. And so she was one of the most reasonable voices about needing to continue to be an American and to to try to understand how Trump got elected and to really continue to be part of the conversation. And there were any number of people on that night, as who just wanted to leave the country. And Felicity was one of the reasonable voices, I think, who was saying, it's our country and we're not going to leave. We're going to stay here and defend it. I'm going to look for another, also from STAG. They did an extraordinary video for us called Living on the Minimum. I hope I can find it. It was about living on food stamps. They took 2 student teams. I'll find it somewhere.
These students, are they high school students or college students or both?
Yeah, so there's a lot of platforms, a lot of programs for college students, which I really love. But I think high school students are capable of really incredible work, and that's where my background is. I've just been working with high school students for the last 10 years. I'm part of all kinds of scholastic organizations that deal with that help high school students. There's a really fierce community there, a lot of really excellent student journalism happening there. And so that's what I'm trying to do, is get high school students into the ecosystem. I think the earlier that we get them, the more they can do as adults. And, so there's a teachable moment in there, and, sometimes we're able to get students into mainstream media, sometimes not. But I think just having them learn how to use digital tools and speak their truth and also be accurate and balanced in their reporting is super, super important.
Cool. Let's, if you don't mind, and sorry to be bouncing back and forth, but did you find something to show us? Yeah, good.
Yeah, I'm still shopping around for living on the minimum. I'll find it. It's somewhere.
Okay.
It's just buried in our stuff. In 2 years, we have a little over 300 stories, videos, so it's sometimes we get lost. Sorry.
Yeah, is it a video site or not?
It's a website, but we have social media feeds, and we send out all our stuff on social media, Facebook, Instagram, even Kakao Talk and WeChat, depending on the social media for different countries. And we do quite a bit of video because that seems to be what people like.
Yeah. Okay, Chris, back to you. I wanted to get to some of the content of like what's going to be happening next week. Does that make sense? And we could start with I don't know, I associate this with you, the In a School Where Black Lives Matter, and as you start talking about it, I'll pull it up on the screen, and we can. Does that sound okay?
Oh yeah. So we came up
with,
so our curriculum, our national curriculum team for this year came up with a challenge, and it's really for all teachers or community or even young people themselves to respond to. So in that, we designed a prompt, and that prompt is in a school where Black Lives Matter, and then sort of like fill in the blank. And the idea is there that we wanted a question that could really scale really well, that could like work with young people in like elementary and go all the way up into, college, and have people respond to that question, and then create like an exhibition space, which we've like curated on Medium for right now. And I think we also have a space at Youth Voices coming up where we can really share those stories and highlight how young people have answered that question.
Can you give an example? I mean, you must have thought it through more than.
Yeah, I mean, so a good one of our core demands, we have 3 core demands that we're like highlighting across the country. Those are one.
I am showing this on the screen, am I not?
Oh, I'm trying to pull up the thing. So
I'm showing it on the screen.
Oh, great. You're looking at it right now. Great, awesome. So our demands are like 1, ending zero tolerance policy and investing into restorative justice in schools. There's a ton of research about the disparate impact of school discipline policies, suspensions, expulsions on Black and brown children, both boys and girls.
Go ahead, interrupt. Go.
Oh, so
we're trying to say something.
Nope.
No, I guess not. Okay.
The second one the second one is around teaching Black history in schools and ethnic studies programs. So California, LA has done some awesome work around the impact of ethnic studies programs in schools. And I think we're all sort of like following behind work that was done in Tucson. Tucson, Arizona had an amazing Mexican-American studies program. And that work was dismantled by the school board there, and then sort of held up by the state as through teaching an authentic, truthful experience of Mexican history and the sort of like Mexican-American encounter. It would say that they are teaching racism. So it's like these knowledges, that are culturally specific, are being erased in our schools. I would say it has a lot to do why Trump can, say things such as labeling a whole continent and its peoples and some Caribbean countries what he has in the past. And it's like through the erasure of cultural history and ways of teaching the accomplishments of peoples, we like are led into like racist thinking. And I think that, part of the Black Lives Matter demands is really like changing that narrative and highlighting the history of Black people and like the true history of, you know, of accomplishment and also violence in this country. And then lastly, hiring and retaining more Black teachers, which is, you know, there's been a trend of the sort of like dismissal of Black teachers from schools. And the most egregious incident of that happened in New Orleans right after Hurricane Katrina. The school board used the hurricane as really an excuse to lay off 4,000 Black teachers from the school district of New Orleans, as they sort of like reformatted the entire school district into like this charter school district. And that sort of began this deep look across the country of like, how are we retaining Black educators? And it was reported in Mother Jones not too long ago that between 2004 and 2011, particularly in Philadelphia, we lost 18% of our Black teachers. So we recognize that we do need to hire more Black teachers into our schools, both Black male and female teachers. But we also need to be particularly aware of the ways in which the workforce, the way schools are run, and the way administrators sort of have, you know, just pushed out Black teachers from schools. So it's like both and. So those are three topics of like that students or, you know, somebody could pick up to think about. And like in a school where Black Lives Matter, we have, you know, Black teachers. We teach about Black history. We transform the way we think about discipline, right? And become more trauma informed. Focus on wellness and well-being, and how we can create community support systems around it. So all these things connect.
Wow. So
can I screen share to something really quick?
Yep.
Let me just show you. This is your Facebook. This is a Facebook page for.
Are you sharing again? Wait. Yep. Okay. Gotcha.
Am I sharing?
Yep. Go ahead.
Are you seeing the page? Okay. Chris, is this your page?
Yeah, that's the page. That's the
okay.
page.
Cool.
And
great.
As you can see, those posters, those really awesome posters that your mouse is on, were created by students up in New York City, and they're like that's one of our more popular posts that's being shared a lot. And
I bet it is.
Really around. We have more coming in tomorrow,
really?
And we'll be sharing those too. So
this kind of gets into what Harry, what do you think of this?
I mean, my whole goal was to get away from the end of the month we're gonna do stuff, not have it be just like a month, you know, like really incorporate. So I'm trying to find some of the substantial.
Harry, you're going in and out. At least with me.
I think what Harry, I don't know if you can hear me, but I think what Harry
can hear
is saying,
you. Yes, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think what Harry is saying, and I feel it too, is, you know, why are we having, I hate, you know, the fact that we only have Martin Luther King Day on one day, right? And as a newspaper reporter, I would always, you know, suggest pieces and that it would get shot down at any other time of the year. But on Martin Luther King Day, I could do them for like just one day. So that's wrong, right? You should be thinking about these issues all the time. But I love these posters. I think these posters could easily have gone viral. And I think this is the kind of print media that, you know, media organizations are constantly looking for. It's very talented. You could do all kinds of things with this kind of, you know, this is visual journalism. This is telling a story in images, and advocating with images. And it's extraordinarily powerful. You can put this stuff on Twitter and it really does go viral. So this would be the kind of work that, you know, Chris, if you did more of, and if you wanted to, you know, do a campaign through the whole year. Harry and I are thinking about doing a campaign around the wall, also visual journalism, but this kind of thing is you can really get into the culture with this kind of thing. What if you put one out every single day?
Say more what you had in mind around the wall.
Harry, you wanna talk about that?
If he can without breaking up. Go ahead, Harry. Try.
Hear me okay?
Mute myself.
Is it breaking up now?
No, you're good now. Yeah.
Between the dogs, it's me tonight. I'm not sure what's going on. Basically, real short, one of the teachers from Mexico City created a prompt based on the idea of the wall that President Trump's proposed. And it's like saying, okay, you know what? This was like just in our minds a regular plain wall, but how do we turn that idea of a wall into something? So we have, like, for example, we have a structures class at our school where they make concrete and they design things, and then those materials go out into the public and help in construction of homes and buildings and things. So they have that component in our school. And we have a couple people that are more mechanically, inclined, and they're like, well, what if we had the wall be something where it was, for example, the roof would be solar panels and it's growing a garden, and that food provides food for people on either side of that wall, on the Mexican side and the United States side. Or what if the wall was where you walk into it and it's a cultural center, and it kind of breaks down the very use of why a wall is there. So you have
proposals for alternative walls.
Exactly. And then go ahead, Beatrice. Because you gave me the idea of, like, how can we get students ideas from all over the place about those proposals? And so what was your bigger goal? Proposals,
Well, selfishly, I'm looking for good content for Global Student Square. And so I think what my vision was to tell a story, tell a journalism story, tell a news story, but in different ways. So, we know that the wall is going to get built. We know that it's going to be very expensive. We know that Mexico is not going to pay for it. And we know that this is going to be, pardon me?
Yeah, I'm not ready to give in on that either, but go ahead. Yes.
Oh, I'm not ready to give in on it at all, but
okay, yeah.
But it's a topic, right?
Yep.
So for student journalists, we have to find a different way to tell these stories, because the major media is out there. They're going to be telling this story, but what can students uniquely add as journalists? So I thought of, and I connected with Harry at Columbia last year, but then also connected with a new teacher at the American School of Mexico. And he was telling me about his students there who, led by Harry last year, they're very visual. So I said, well, there's all kinds of visual journalism out there, data visualization and graphs and charts and infographics, and people remixing different graphics to tell a story. So I thought, what if student journalists researched what the plans are for the wall? Find some news story that tells you a little bit about what it's meant to do, what the president wants it to do, or what people are anxious about if and when the wall gets built. And then use your skills as an artist and draw that wall, or draw the wall that you think should be there. We're all, most of us American taxpayers, we're going to be paying for this thing. What if we flip this concept on its head? What if the wall was not a place you wanted to stay away from, but a place you wanted to go to? What if the wall symbolized something other than hate? What if it was a porous wall, like Harry was saying, a wall that there's performance art going on there, so you want to go there and you want to go in and out of it. There was a Supreme Court case recently about a young person who was killed by someone who fired through the wall. What if we make the wall a safe zone? What if it's the only safe zone at the border where you can walk and share and experience life and not be worried about your personal safety? There's so many ways that you could kick this up, and you could reimagine the wall. What I would love to see is for there to be a journalism tie-in, so that it's somehow aligned to academic standards in terms of reading nonfiction and understanding text and making references to text and doing something in school that can connect.
Is this an idea
with what
at this
we want
point?
in journalism? Mm-hmm.
Is this an idea, or have you and Harry? I know you emailed me yesterday and it said come tomorrow, so thank you for dropping everything and showing up. Like, do you have a PDF that describes what you just said yet, or?
This is about 24 hours old, so yeah,
okay,
we
good.
can come up.
Yeah,
Stuff, I think so. I'd like to try and get a prototype. I've been talking to Harry about maybe trying to find like a few students who would do us a solid, who would just do this for us and show us what could be. And then I think my job would be to go out to the editors I know and see if I could interest them in this story. I mean, this is something that really could go big. I think it'd be great to take The Wall, cool, which everybody is so depressed about and down about, and just nobody wants to see it, and give it over to some high school students who really will get imaginative about it and see what they can do.
There was a Chico State last year.
Good program.
They did, right, but they did a bunch of their entering students did letters to the next president, part of the National Writing Project work, and then they took their letters and put them on a wall, creating a wall in a local mall. So
I was going to say Chico State has actually a very good college journalism program, and I know the advisor there. I've known them for years. I think high school students, especially if we have them do this in a high school journalism way, annotate your drawing, tell us where you got the information for your drawing from. Take a look at other walls in history, like the Berlin Wall. How did that work out for East and West Germany? Did that reach its goals? There's a lot of really rich
the wall in Palestine also. So yeah.
So I think if we could pull together and have students around the world take a swing at this and see what we get, I think it could be an exciting project, and one that maybe would be engaging and motivating for students who might not otherwise be interested in this. I'd love to get DACA.
In your email, you mentioned Maya Lin's wall in Washington too, right? As a different kind of wall.
Yeah, and a very controversial one, and one that definitely tells a story. It's I could make an argument for that wall being a piece of documentary journalism. It's got all the names, right? And you can go to it and you can interact with those names, but you take them in a way that we know works. It's tactile, it's kinetic. Students aren't going to forget it.
Cool.
I just think high school students are going to have a different take on the issue. I had one student I talked to about this idea, and she was like, we should imagine what the wall. Why is the wall only with Mexico? Why is it not with Canada? If we believe in walls, why don't we put walls all around the country? What would that look like? And if you take that idea to its ridiculous conclusion, it becomes a wholly new issue. So I would love to see high school students.
Sounds great. So you may have more to say, but let's pull back to the week of action, because that's happening right now. Is that okay? But it's a very inspiring idea, and let's. I'm happy to throw the Youth Voices community into that, because especially teachers who have immigrant students as well. But would be interesting, I think, for them. But others too. Chris, can I pose a question to you? Just sort of a quick nuts and bolts question. You there? Yeah, good. Yep. Okay, good to know. In that workshop where I tried to do too much, and that's okay. This weekend, I came out of it and have tried to do a little work now too. I've done quite a bit of work of looking at all the resources that are available, and quite honestly, there's some really wonderful stuff there. And then there's some stuff like, oh wait, why is she doing that? Like Renee Watson's work around the poetry, and like we have a project that can very easily be added to these resources. What am I trying to say? Oh, so here's what I'm trying to say. If I'm a teacher and I'm just hearing about this, right? Where do I, can you answer the question, where do I start? Do I start with the 3 demands that you just said and have my students do like research projects into what happened at Tucson and
that might be a lot.
And elsewhere. Or do I start with the principles? Yeah, go ahead.
Right. I think if you're just beginning, I think you should look at the principles. And look at the definitions of the principles, discuss those with your students.
And all these really amazing images, right?
Right. I mean, you got the amazing images which go and give like visuals to that as well. I think that's a great beginning to really open up this conversation and think about and I kind of go back to what Beatrice is talking about is like, you could do some critical media work around the narrative of Black Lives Matter and then the principles of Black Lives Matter and see like, what's the differences, you know? Why do people only pick up on certain things? Why aren't other things mentioned? I think that would be a great, meaningful beginning conversation. I think the demands is something that is more district.
Sorry.
Beatrice, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think you're very, very close to doing something like a public service campaign. Like you remember in the 60s, like the Black Glamour ad and the Black is Beautiful movement and how those visual images for the first time really created in the American consciousness an idea not only of pride, but of actual beauty, you know, like just let's take those images, let's take, you know, the media stereotypes and let's really examine them and offer something, you know, completely new. I mean, I think you could do a public service announcement almost every day of the week about just bring up, you know, people like Robert Moses, bring up like moments in Black history, bring up Black lives that matter, not only in one city, but anywhere around the world, you know, start connecting the dots and offering that to people on a daily basis. You know, if King were alive today, he'd be horrified that we have this explosion of Black history on only one day of the year. He called us the beloved community. We were supposed to care about each other 365 days a year. So why couldn't you? I would run that on Global Student Square. If your students wanted to do PSAs, if they wanted to do posters, we would run that. And we would run it as a public service. Like, you want to learn a little bit about Black history, you know, guess what? You don't have to open a book. We're going to give it to you as a beautiful poster. And you can learn that way.
So Chris, that gets to
all kinds of skills. You know, you can align that with curricula, with Common Core.
Yeah.
That does get to where you're going to collect this stuff together. You were starting to talk about Medium. Beatrice just offered, you know, Global Square. And, you know, I always am talking about Youth Voices, right? So, and I guess everybody uses the same hashtag, which is what?
Hashtag Black Lives Matter at school.
Okay, yeah.
All spelled out.
But so do you have any, what are your thoughts about where to collect this and how to get it out to
the two things that the Medium is autonomous in itself, but I'm not expecting too many people to know how to maneuver through it. For example, it's like you can just literally respond to the post and insert rich multimedia and text into that space, or copy and paste text into it, and it's forever connected to that post. That is probably the easiest way to.
Can I see it? Can we look at it?
Yeah, if you go to.
Yeah, where was that? That's not it. Here it is. Is this it?
So, there's a couple things.
Let me make sure I click. Yep. Okay.
So, Medium.com is like I don't know, it's the startup, and they've been trying to pivot since forever. But it started out as a space to write on the internet that was pretty sort of like stable, low, not trying to do a whole bunch with formatting, just like text.
Right. You're saying you'd start a channel?
Beatrice, go ahead. What?
Are you thinking of starting a channel, Chris, on Medium?
Well, yeah.
Because you can post on Medium, but you can also have a channel.
So we got a publication. We have a publication on Medium that we're going to try to host as many of these stories as we can for the week. And
Okay, so I'm a student.
Right.
I'm logged in here. I think I am logged in.
You're logged in. Yep, you are. Great.
Okay. What do I do?
So, scroll down.
Yeah.
Now, first of all, anything that's on there, like you go up. If you go up into the text, highlight any text.
Any text, really?
Any text.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, now just let it sit. So that first pencil you see on your left is the respond. No, it's highlight, I think. And then the second one is respond.
Yeah, got it.
And now you can create your own post that's responding to that, right? Okay. And then that third one is.
And can I tag it?
Yeah, you can put tags on your. Yep. Okay.
All right, gotcha.
Now,
and I can put.
You see that
I can put media in here or not?
Yeah, you can put images, whatever.
Okay. Go ahead.
Now, if you see that third one, it's a tweet button, and what it does is anything that you like highlight, it automatically like clips it into a screenshot, and you click it, and it'll say, "Okay, load an image attachment," and now it turns into an image, and that's easily shareable across Twitter. And you can also take that image and share it on Instagram if you wanted to. So it's like this portable way of taking stuff and collecting stuff and trying to make it easy for people to recognize.
Okay, now, you taught me about Medium. I get it, but okay. where I've just made an image about restorative justice. Okay. Where do I put it?
So you can do it like that, like you just did it there,
but where? I mean, do I find the word restorative justice?
No, just respond. If you go down,
yeah. I don't mean to be difficult, but okay. I can just do it right here.
Right.
Okay, got it.
So that's
that's what you're asking kids to do.
That's one way of doing it. I think the most stuff will come in through the BLMPHLed Gmail. And basically on the poster that we're asking people, you can send all your materials to BLMPHLed@gmail. We'll review it and post it to the Medium ourselves. We got a team of 3 people who will be looking at it through the week. And
team of what?
3 people.
3 people, okay.
So we'll be looking at it and posting stuff throughout the week.
Okay.
So 2 different spaces to be able to do that. We also still have the Facebook space open, so you can share stuff with us through there. Twitter, you can use the hashtag, and we'll be collecting stuff through there, which is like Black Lives Matter at School. But yeah, so those are our like ways of getting in contact, and it's all an experiment. This is our first time doing it, so we're just trying to, create different spaces that are low capacity because we're all working and trying not to make it a thing. Recognizing that we probably got like 20,000, 30,000 teachers involved at this point.
So Beatrice, do you have any ideas? Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking, if Chris allows republication, we could pick up some of the better images and put them out, and then our media partners could see them and hopefully, rerun them or pick them up themselves.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. I think that we want to keep
getting it out into the atmosphere.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I think we want to keep it very low to the ground. So it's like trying to give attribution on everything as we put it up, and just sort of like post it, and then where it goes from there, hoping that people get in contact with the folks to be able to do that.
How are students identified? How is their authorship, their ownership made clear? I mean, are you watermarking your images, or can you?
Yeah, I think with the New York stuff, there's all the students put their names on. All their students put their names on their work, and we recognize.
I think that would be really super important. I think for me that's a core principle that students own their work. That if somebody wants to get back in touch with them, like, gee, you're a great graphic designer, I'd love to hire you for a project, or I think what you did is really great, or they want to send it in, like, for their part of their college portfolio. Your SAT score sucks, so you have a great portfolio that shows what you can really do. I think it's just really important to make sure that the student and some way of reaching that student is embedded in the product. But otherwise, I'll start watching.
Yeah, that sounds great, but not quote unquote low to the ground, right?
Yes, Paul. You know exactly how I'm feeling.
Yeah. meaning that team of 3 people would have to do that at this point. But getting that message out to teachers is really good, though.
But
like,
for the long term, definitely, like you're right, that we want to build in a culture where young people understand their intellectual property, understand that they're sharing these things, that they do have a value, that they can be mobilized to create revenue for themselves and others.
That's right.
But I think for the week of action, it's really just a explosion, more so than we're looking at it to be this. I mean, I think that's why your platform is really good, to capture that and work with students over a period of time to be able to cultivate that. This one's more like direct action.
Can you put together like your hashtags and your like your coordinates for your project, like your Medium channel and your hashtags on Twitter, and any other way, your Facebook page, any other way that people can follow you, and just send them to me and I'll broadcast them to my networks.
Got you.
Good.
I think they're all in that email. If Paul forwarded that email to you, we put a ton of stuff in there. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
awesome.
There are links to links to links to links. I mean, you can have fun on there. And you are at Writer Girl, correct? You're
actually, for this,
that's not you
that's my Twitter, but
okay.
You can communicate with me through GSS, like at GSS Voices.
Okay.
That's our Twitter. I'll put it in the chat field. And my email is Beatrice at Global Student Square. And Harry, I'm wondering, like, if people listen to this recording and if they're interested in submitting work or getting some information on how to submit work, how do you want them to get a hold of us? Should they email you and email me?
Just answering it from the point of view of the kids who are on Youth Voices, and so that would be similar, I think. I want to make a list of here are places where you can submit work, right? Put it on Medium, send it to the Gmail, or put it up as a post on Youth Voices, or send it to Beatrice somehow, however you want to do that. And I think they can choose to do one of those or all of them, right? Does that sound too confusing?
No, that sounds fine. I mean, I think we need to probably have a prompt for the wall thing, and just make sure that there's a sort of a unified format, so that we can use we can show the work and get permission to use the work. So maybe Harry and I could put something together for teachers who are interested.
You did have some dates in mind. Certainly let's focus on the Black Lives Matter next week, obviously, but March 5th is the end of DACA. Is that right? Did you have some?
March 8th, I think.
Okay.
Let me look it up real quick.
So we want to do this project in that range, yes? Start collecting stuff.
No, it is March.
First week of March. Does that sound reasonable? We can do some planning before then, and collecting and thinking through. Yeah.
Right.
And activating a network of people to do this. Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chris, I don't know if any of those students who did those posters would be interested in taking on the wall, but oh my God. The wall is a huge metaphor. I don't think it's just the U.S.-Mexico border wall. We're building a lot of walls right now. I'm sure your kids have ideas about what kind of walls are being built.
Yeah, there was an artist, JR, did a project at the border around, very similar. Like,
Oh, okay. I'll look it up.
I'm just wondering if they addressed that in the new African American Museum in Washington, D.C. about the walls that are built, and if that could be an exhibit there. because it's a fairly new museum, and the curator for that whole museum is fairly new. He's pretty open to taking in projects and new thoughts and things like that. It'd be pretty cool if something could be represented in the African American Museum in Washington D.C. too, based on like this mini explosion this week, next week, the whole month. It'd be really cool if they could be representative of schools all over to be a something that's represented there. That'd be pretty cool.
So, Chris, I want to come back, give you last word here, and I have a challenging question for you, if I may. I think it's a challenge. Are you still there?
Yeah, I wanted to go show a wall.
Oh, what'd you show? Go ahead, show it.
Yeah. Can you see it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's cool. No.
Oh yeah, Gordon Parks photo.
Yeah.
Just got me thinking. Gordon Parks did this whole series around segregation in the South. As you can see, these are Black children who are not allowed to go to that carnival that is happening right in their backyard.
Oh shit!
Very powerful photo.
Yeah.
This might be at the African American Museum. So.
Cool.
One of the resources points to Linda Christensen's and Bill Bigelow's article about empathy and that being a reading process. I would love to get photographs like that and have kids imagine, what those young people are thinking, right? But that's a powerful one. So let me get to I think it's a hard question. Demands. 3 demands. I get it. But your description of it, so there are some who might say a demand is something that you can tell me whether or not it's been met or not, right? Are these demands consciousness raising, or will we know when they're met? Is that a fair question? Yeah.
I mean, they all can.
What else is happening on the week is the real question.
You could put measurements on all of them. I mean, I think when it comes to the restorative justice work, where we have measurements, we have research reports around the rate of suspensions and suspensions, expulsions for Black students. And
you would find that out in your own school, right?
Right. Like, for example, today there was a huge. I had to see on Twitter that there was a huge meeting, school board meeting in D.C. around discipline within the Washington D.C. school district, and part of that research, Black girls are 17.8 times more likely to be suspended than white girls in Washington, D.C. Like, those are like the true statistics based on the research that is. So like those are measurements that we expect people in local spots to put up and think about how to drastically change that, and that's something that can be looked at. For the Black history and ethnic studies, what we have in Philadelphia is we have a graduation requirement, and I think that's written in the long paragraph of the demand. We have a graduation requirement that requires all students to get a credit of African American history. And I think the ethnic studies movement in LA has done something similar, where they have a number of classes which might meet that credit, right? So that is a way of doing that. And I think hiring more Black educators is definitely something that you can just go to any human resources office of a school district and say, are you tracking this data? Are you differentiating? Are you tracking and how can we pull up those numbers? Some of the things that's happening there around like the policy front is just like in some ways school districts benefit from keeping all their like staff and paraprofessional staff and maintenance staff and everyone all together. So it becomes like, these are all the Black and brown people in our school district, and not differentiating and saying, well, how many, Black science teachers do you have? How many Black principals do you have? Like those things that are all sort of like part of it. So it's like one part differentiating the data and one part creating like quotas and holding people accountable to it. I I mean, so they all can be broken down and really like.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that was a great answer. Thank you. Yeah. But it's obvious also that what happens during the week is the start of those inquiries and not the end of them, right?
Right.
I mean,
exactly.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. And that Gordon Parks photos comes from a book. So I'll put the link in the chat.
Got it.
Folks.
Cool. So obviously much more going on. Thank you, Chris, for your big efforts. How do you feel about this exploding this way nationally?
I mean, it's pretty cool. It's what we expected. I think what is bothering me, or what I'm beginning to recognize, is that the amount of racism that is in this country, and us like really being like forward about these ideas, might put some particular spaces at in harm's way.
So you have to be ready for the backlash. Yeah.
Right. And I don't. You know, some people who are fueled by hate are out to do wild things. And while we still have to be able to create a vision of the world that is just and fair, I really hope, you know, and that they're like, I don't know, but I'm thinking about Vermont and thinking about how we keep folks safe. And we have to do that during this week, and we have to do that, you know, for the long term for everybody.
Oh, cool. Beatrice, we'll get back to you. And Harry, you know, you'll be back in and out all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Harry, you didn't get to tell the story, but your kids, maybe we'll get to when you can show some of them.
Yeah, I mean, I read that one piece tonight about a racist white police officer from the Hate U Give, and it was hard to read because I was like, oh man, I'm reading this, and the kids don't know me. This is only our second open mic night in a new school, and my face was starting to get real red. And you could see the kids in the audience; they were just like, wow, you know, like it really shocked them to hear that kind of language. But boy, did they come around when we started to talk about how it is a way to discuss what we're feeling. And that, out of all the pieces that we did, that was the one that was really like, wow, that really shocked them in the conversation. So that was pretty cool. So I think stuff like that would be good conversation starters for sure.
So we are going to go back to that. Sorry, but thank you for doing that. We're gonna close out here tonight. Thank you for jumping in with our community here, and let's keep connecting. Great.
Cool.
Thanks, Chris.
I love that. Thank you so much, Chris.
Yeah, have a great one.
Yeah, thanks, Chris.
Talk to you.
Good night.
Okay, good night.